Today, I'd like to talk about today's comments on my comments on the government stats that come out. People were extremely unhappy. So let me talk about how I approach information and the markets and how my thought process is. First, I don't have one narrative. I have 5 narratives, 3, 4, 5, 6 at all times. Believe it or not, there's a rule of teams that the team should be between 3 and 7. 5 is the optimum. Over 7 is too many people. 3 or less is not enough people. So coming up with 3, 4, or 5 narratives, I think, is important because then you don't own the narrative, all right? Then I look for information points that either support the narrative or don't support the narrative. So to give you an example, one of the narratives I've had since the great financial crisis and the reading of the Panic of 1907 is that we could go and literally have the Roaring 20s to 2029, just like we did in 1929. And since 2008, when I thought of this, I've not been able to move that narrative off the board. It's still there. We could get there. We may not, but so far we could get there, all right? Now let's talk about information. There's the pyramid in information. The bottom of the information pyramid is data. This is what we collect and store, and how you collect and store it is critically important. Second is information. When we access the data and we bring it up to be used, once we use it, it's now information, okay? Next is personal experience, all right? That's the next step up in our information pyramid. The next one up after that is opinion. And the next one after that is misinformation. And the next one after that is conspiracy theory. So there's your pyramid, all right? So when I look at people say, okay, the government is lying about the inflation rate, we're actually deflating, a lot of people said. Other people said inflation is 10%. Other people say the unemployment rate is way higher, way lower, right? So 1, you have no data to support that. 2, you have no information that supports you, okay? You have no personal experience to say that, all right? So thereby, your opinion is based on air. So the only question that is left is, are you pushing misinformation or are you pushing a conspiracy theory? Because that's where you are in the data thing. Now, we're in the markets. Yes, there's a lot of opinion in the market. It has to be. But as we said in the previous video, in the end, we are hooked to the real world, to real data. In the end, we can drive NVIDIA up to $1,250, whatever it was, 100 times the revenue or whatever, right? But in the end, it's probably going to come back to the mean sooner or later. When it does, who knows, okay? So when you're looking at the market, I try to stay as far down as I possibly can, which is in the data, all right? So you'll notice in my feed when on Twitter, it's usually just data, right? Not information, and certainly not opinion. And you got to remember something. The studies show, okay, that a person's opinion are made up 80% of their personal experience. So when we're talking the markets, bond markets, currency trading, commodity trading, pipelines, all this other stuff, we don't have any personal experience. We have none, all right? So our opinions are very, very, very suspect, okay? So try to stay in the data. Now, one last point. I read a book a long time ago, 1981, so whatever that is, 40-some years, okay? Pretty sure it's Critical Path by Buckminster Fuller, Bucky. So in the book, there's one paragraph. It had nothing to do with the book. It's just Bucky being Bucky. And he said, on September 9th, 1963, the largest and most respected news organization in the entire world took their 6 o'clock news, 6 p.m. news, from 15 minutes to 30 minutes. All right? So in my very limited opinion, which is based on no data and no information, I believe that we can actually pinpoint the beginning of the information age. And I believe it was on September 9th, 1963 at 6 o'clock. All right? So, after I read that book, I was a young FA, at that time broker. I wasn't an FA, I was a broker. All right? And I was already being overwhelmed. We just got scrolling news. I remember that. So we just got news scrolling by. You don't even know what that is, all right? We couldn't ask for any news. We just had scrolling news, all right? So I sat down and I said, how am I going to start parsing through all the data, information, and opinion that's coming at me, all right? Because I was totally overwhelmed. So I came up with my process. It's my process. It may not work for you, and it's not easy to do. And what I did is I said, listen, I'm not going to put a lot of import on any news item that comes out that doesn't start first with, for the first time in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, okay? And I would put more importance on the news item the longer it was. Is it 50 years? I'm paying attention. So I will tell you, in the late 90s, there was hardly anything, okay? In the early 90s, there's a couple things, but let me tell you something. In 2007, 8, and 9, I hit for the first time 100 years. For the first time in 100 years, there was like 5 or 6 items. Most of them were 70, 80, and 90 years, all right? So I consider anything else as kind of like white noise. I notice it, I note it, and does it support one of my 5 narratives? Does it not support one of my 5 narratives? And do I eliminate a narrative when I get the information, or do I add another one? I never own a narrative. I don't care. What I care about is being right. Other than that, who cares, right? So listen, if you want to throw bombs, if you want to be a conspiracy theorist, if you want to pass on misinformation based upon an unsubstantiated opinion, fine. But please don't come on my site and fight with me over this. I have no desire to do that. Like, I follow Mr. Global. I think he was fantastic. Man, he taught me more about oil and gas than anybody I've ever followed, right? And now when you watch Mr. Global every day, he's fighting with people over what they say. I don't have any desire to do that. I really don't. If you notice, what I do is I try to give you help you, assist you in making your own decision. I have no decisions for you. You know more about yourself than I do. So what I would say to everybody, is treat yourself good. Look down to the data, then to the information. Skip the personal experience, all right? And don't tell me about your opinion that's based on nothing, okay? So look it. Like and follow. I hope you follow me. I do hope you comment. I hope you comment a lot. And I hope you give me data and information that is useful to me and to anybody who decides that they want to follow me. Thank you very much. Comment away.